I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's going to be biblical.
Hello, welcome
Hey,
to Patriots Across the Pond, episode 33 with Stewie and Elisa V. Juan is not here yet. We have been in contact. He's in an undisclosed location in Asia somewhere, and we know how busy a man he is. So we've just decided to come on, and if he comes on, he comes on. I shall be monitoring the backstage area immensely, but if he comes on, he comes on. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But hopefully he will. So, Elisa, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little tired of the cold weather already because, it's in the single digits. Like, there's no excuse for that.
No, I've got the hump with it now. Well, I don't really get the hump with anything, if I'm honest with you, but I like the warm weather.
Yeah, I don't mind. I was just checking my text, just seeing if Juan texted. But I don't mind like winter, like it's nice, you get that fresh air. But when it gets this cold, let me tell you how bad it is. My daughter, who's 19, was like, yeah, I'm over this. We need to move to Florida. And like, Florida for young people is like, no, I don't want to go there. It's so boring. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like we had heard that they said it was supposed to go through Groundhog's Day. So that was yesterday. And then we did find out from Puxatawny Phil here in Pennsylvania, the groundhog, that we are going to have another 6 weeks of winter. So I don't know if all that is kind of connected to what's going on,
Right, I'm just going to put Jason's comment on the screen.
Yeah.
Hi, Elisa, episode 33 at 3:30 with Stewie 333. There's a lot of threes there.
A lot of threes.
Thank you, cuz. What is this groundhog thing you said there? It sounds
groundhog. It's the tradition. I think it's been like 100 and something years. And the name of the groundhog, obviously, he hasn't lived for 100 and whatever years, this one groundhog, but his affectionate name, Puxatawny Phil.
Right.
And so he comes out.
How'd you spell that?
Puxa. I don't know. I think if you start putting it, yeah, PUNX.
Oh yeah, I've got it.
SUTAWNEY Phil. So like, I can never remember if he sees a shadow, if he doesn't see a shadow, whatever it was, it happened to indicate that there's 6 weeks more of winter. And so there's this whole thing. Did you ever see the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was the whole point. He was going to that locale to see if the groundhog saw his shadow. I mean, of course, the movie was about other stuff, but...
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't remember that. That was a long... I haven't watched any films for a long, long time, but...
Yeah, but remember... Yeah, I forgot where it was. We were talking about it. I don't know if it was Trump, but it was one of the, one of the things we were talking about the other day. I think it was with Matt Geiger last week, and they were saying it was going to be cold through Groundhog's Day. But it's still cold.
Punxsutawney Phil's come out and said you can have cold weather for another 6 weeks.
Yes.
How did he do that then? Because he didn't look at the shadow.
No, it should say like what happened yesterday.
Right. According to the tradition, if Phil sees his shadow and returns to his hole, he has predicted 6 more weeks of winter light weather. If Phil does not see his shadow, he has predicted an early spring. So how do you know if he's seen his shadow or not, Beth?
So I guess he saw it and he ran back in. I don't know. It's a ridiculous thing, but
Right, sounds like that.
What?
Sounds like that octopus they use to pick the winners in each match in the World Cup.
I think it's the same concept.
Oh, right. So have you got yourself a new winter coat then for the next 6 weeks?
Yeah. Honestly, it's so bad, but I have not really been out of my house. Plus, I didn't really feel good. But, the only time I go out is to go get food, go food shopping.
And to dig the car out so George can go to work.
Yes, he goes out every day. But he likes the cold. Don't forget, he's a hockey guy.
Oh, right, yeah.
So remember when I was texting you from the game a couple of weeks ago because his son is on the fire department, the FDN.
It's one of the best nights you've ever had, isn't it?
So I don't mind hockey, I think it's fun, but it was so freaking cold in this little arena. Like literally the bleachers were metal and you couldn't sit on them. Like I had to sit on, like George was like, I don't need my coat. I was like, okay. So I put his coat, I was sitting on it. It was so cold. Like it was just so cold. My feet, I had to keep banging my feet because they were freezing. And yeah, I told him, I was like, it's a good thing that.
Well, I mean, is that must be the same with every ice hockey stadium, really? Because
not really. Like the professional stadiums are, chilly, but I wasn't freezing. This is like a small little place. And the ice is right there. You know what I'm saying? So everything is like smaller.
So in those, is it real ice?
Yeah.
Or is it some sort of substance mixed into the ice, which means they can have it a little bit warmer in there? Because obviously it's got to be lower than 0 degrees for the ice to stay ice.
Yeah, but don't forget, for the players, they're running around, they're working up a sweat.
Oh,
so
yeah, I know.
They're not feeling it, right? Yeah, so usually they have heaters. They have like the heaters, so I didn't see any heaters in this place. And I was like, listen, it's a good, because obviously he has his kids from his previous marriage. I have mine. I said, it's a good thing that I wasn't the mother of your children at that time, because here's the deal I would have made. I'll go to 1 game a month, and the rest of the time I'll cook. I'll make you guys hot chocolates. I'll send you with a thermos. I'm not sitting in that arena that's freezing. Count me out.
You have to take a sleeping bag. Those sleeping bags you can get in the shape of a human.
Yes.
Yeah, just bowl in with one of them on.
Yeah.
So, we can just have anyone got any questions? Because we're just going to sit here and waffle on. Like I say, we know how busy Juan is, and he's all over the world. And, a lot of shows, he dips in and dips out. We've made contact. He did say he was going to come on if he could. But we didn't want to just sit there in the back room having you guys waiting. So that's why we've come on, and we're very happy to do that. There is no Matt Letizia today because his wife's poorly, so he's got to do some driving this evening. But he is coming on tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern AM, 2 p.m. our time, and then we've got Matt Geiger. Well, I say our time, GMT, and then we've got Matt Geiger at 4 p.m. GMT. So 2 tomorrow. And this little waffle on session today. Anyone got any questions for us? We can just, it's really good now. We were doing we just started off, didn't we, doing one Thursday show a week where we waffled on talking about recent events. But every guest we have on now, we are discussing recent events with them. So, we're trying to get some guests on a Thursday and stuff. Like last week, we had Jan Halper on, which was amazing to get her on. And
let me just add, by the way, we have just, when it comes to the New York Awakening, well, the Awakening Summit in New York on April 25th and 26th, the tickets are going. We don't have many VIP tickets left. However, we just added Jan Halper Hayes to the roster of speakers, which is so exciting. So she's going to be in New York. And we've got a couple of other folks that we're waiting to see who. But as you know, we have Kerry Cassidy. We have Derek Johnson, Joe and Scott from Truth Stream, Bruce Poppy, Kat. Why did I just go blank on her screen?
Like Warrior Patriot.
Like Warrior Patriot.
Comment at the bottom of the screen. We were only talking about that the other day. I was talking to my mate in the gym about it as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I know. It's so depressing. But you know what I noticed? What are we now? February 2nd, whatever, 3rd today. Yesterday, I noticed that it was almost 5 o'clock and it was still very bright. So I think we're on, since December 26th, we're on we're moving back. So maybe it'll start to get a little lighter. But anyway, regarding the event, so anybody who's in the area, tri-state area, planning to be in the U.S., definitely get your tickets. It's theawakeningsummit.org. And you can see the lineup and a bunch of other information there. I have to tell you something that's kind of bothering me. I was going through my Telegram, and I'm sure you've seen it, but there was the percentages on how much money has been given to the American universities, and how, basically the teachers unions essentially get, all that money gets laundered back to the Democrats. But I was really blown away. I mean, we're not stupid. We know what's going on, but I was blown away by these numbers. If I could share them, 98% of donations from teachers unions go to the Democrat Party. 300 billion was sent to college facilities that are 90% Democrat. 93% of donations from college professors went to Democrats. 92.9% of education sector donations went to Democrats. 99% of donations from flagship universities, National Association of Scholars donations went to Democrats. 96% from Ivy League professors in 2022 midterms donations went to Democrats. And 98 to 99% at places like Harvard, Dartmouth, Penn, and others in various cycles, donations went to Democrats. I mean,
when all is said and done, the Democratic Party will cease to exist.
100%. But I mean, this is why we have the problem that we have with the education system, and that they're taking it all down.
They are taking it all down. Yeah, Q drop 2635. The D party will cease to exist once all is exposed. Fake news can no longer control, dampen public awareness of the truth. Dark to light. Yeah. What's being exposed, and Rebel Life there, I didn't anticipate how the Epstein files could connect to pretty much everything. Well, I think the Epstein files is just part of it, because I think Jeffrey Epstein is one of 50 potential Jeffrey Epsteins. I think there's lots of.
Oh, yeah.
I just made a post earlier about, what was going on at his Zorro Ranch and stuff. Yeah. Buckle up, people, because the stuff that's coming, I mean, we're seeing some. Isn't it wonderful how Trump baited them in? Trump's just done a great little video, actually.
Yeah. You can never underestimate in any way, shape, or form that man, the plan, and the strategy that goes into this.
I'll play that.
We have other things to do because that whole thing started out. I mean, other than.
I'll play it in a minute when I've taken it off 1.75 speed and got my act together. All right, 1.7 speed. If you hover your mouse the wrong way, it covers the thing up. Sorry. Right. And the tagline is, we need this to happen. Breaking. President Trump says the Epstein files have backfired on the left. And now they're trying to backtrack. It's hitting them hard. It's hitting back on them because of Bill Clinton. It's turning out to be the Democrats who conspired with Epstein. It's wonderful seeing how many of these names are coming out, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, Bill Gates and lots of people that have, there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me. But it was even sort of better than that because they found that Jeffrey Epstein and this sleazebag writer named Michael Wolff were conspiring against Donald Trump to lose the election. So Epstein was conspiring with a writer for me to lose the election. So right there, you know that I had nothing to do with this guy. But yeah, it's a terrible thing. The amount of time that's being wasted. You know, when Epstein was alive, like 10 years ago, nobody cared about it. But they're only doing it. But now it's really hitting back on them because Bill Clinton is such a big part of it. The Democrats are pushing it. And the problem is that it's turning out to be the Democrats that were with and conspired with Epstein. So I think you're probably going to see a little pullback from them. But think of it. They were working together to try and help me lose the election. But this is the Oval Office, so I guess that didn't work out too.
Yeah, exactly.
I just found a very funny meme.
Stuart, any chance of getting George Galloway on the show? We could certainly try. I did start watching a George Galloway video earlier. I think George Galloway is another one of these. He's very straight down the line, isn't he? Very 3D perspective from that. I don't think he looks at any sort of plans going on in the background.
Is he he's very 3D? I'm not that familiar with his perspective.
You know George Galloway, don't you?
Maybe I do, and I'm not connecting the name with who it is.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'll find. I can't think where I saw it. I think I started watching it on YouTube, probably. What were you going to say then about a meme?
Well, I'm going to send you something because we were having such an enjoyable conversation about the groundhog. So I just found this little thing on Telegram. You have to look at it. I sent it to you in Telegram. Maybe you could put it up.
Yeah, okay. Let me just find that then.
Yeah, I'm still checking. I don't, don't forget if he's in Asia, that's
This is Punxsutawney, Phil's ex-wife, Phyllis, who now lives in Florida and says that Phil is a compulsive liar. She looks like she's living the dream there, Phyllis.
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, there you go. See, Jay, there's a couple of comments coming in here.
Well, I mean, so just so everybody knows, we had a cancellation yesterday and for today, and then we just happened to inquire with Juan if he was available, which I don't think either of us thought he was going to say yes with such short notice, and he said yes, but he said I'm over in Asia, so I got to set my alarm. So we're thinking maybe just with the time difference, because if it's almost 11 o'clock in New York, it's probably either 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. over in Asia. Let's see. To think I met Richard Branson in the late 80s through my job in advertising. We had the Virgin Atlantic ads contract. He was I'm sure he was charming. They all are.
Yeah. You don't know where
that one. I'm not going to lie. When I was becoming awake to all the disgusting stuff with kids, because I didn't always know that,
Right.
I found that out. What's that?
I'll just say one thing to you. There is 13 different time zones in Asia.
Really?
Yeah, it's a big place.
Well, yeah. I'm thinking, just thinking, spitballing. It's probably somewhere near China, but
Yeah.
anyway, back to when I first started awakening to the horror with the children, because I didn't always know that. Obviously, they didn't want us to know that. And there were a handful of people, I think, throughout the world who did know that, especially those people in Hollywood or brushed up against those people. However, I was able to accept Epstein, right? Because a lot of that Epstein stuff was already out with, the 2016 election and, WikiLeaks and a lot of that shit. But the Richard Branson, that one threw me. Like, I had a part-time job after my divorce, and they had in the employees area one of his freaking quotes, on how great, how important the employees are. He was always like a big, great boss proponent, value your employees. And that one, like, it was a little bit of like a, I kind of jumped back a little. I was like, what? And I would say more than likely that one was like the first one. And then after that, I just was expecting everybody, to be a pedophile and something,
Oh, yeah.
because it
Well,
broke my, my view that that anybody with this kind of reputation. And then you start putting the pieces together, right? It never really made sense. The whole virgin, I was like, what? Okay, I get virgin, I guess, your first time flying. Like, I was trying to make sense of that name, which, by the way, I've flown. Great airline.
sick as
Right?
fuck. People are sick. Now, I've always looked at everyone with a side eye since I've woken up, but certainly double side-eyed Richard Branson, as I like to call him, when he got that savage black eye.
Well, yes.
Years back, right?
Yes.
Jason's just said, get Andrew Bridging on. He's become really pro-Trump the last few weeks. Now, I spoke to your lovely lady wife, and I hear you you speak to him a bit on Twitter, and was it AJ Roberts as well? I've sent both of those messages on Twitter, but I've not heard anything back yet. So if you can do any honours there, Jay, that would be wonderful, because we'd like to get both of those on.
Yeah, that would be great. And we'll follow up here with George Galloway.
Simone, can you play the clip I sent for you? Yes, because it's excellent. It is a great clip. And I said to Simone, as soon as she sent it, you've made the news. It is a beauty. Let me just get it. And let me get it nice and big. Ooh, she said. Right.
And so I'm not talking about all people that voted for Donald Trump. We see the polls. There are some people who actually understand the dangers.
I don't think that's it.
But here, David French, again.
That's not it. Sorry. Let me find it. Or was it? Got anything to say, Elisa? While I look for this?
I'm sorry, I was just texting Juan just to give a little jingle to him.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, no, so getting back to old Branson, that one kind of threw me when I first heard it. I mean, I knew about, and I don't want this to sound, because it's going to sound awful, but like, I knew about the Epstein stuff from 2016, but in my mind, I was thinking this is absolutely disgusting and awful. And then they had an HBO special, but not that I am excusing any of this shit, but they're showing like 16, 17, you know what I mean? Year old girls, right? And I had no idea that it went so low to, babies and children at that time. So, I was like, my mind was already open to that. But I still had my own people, right? Especially being in the business community, and like you said, his charm was just there, you know, especially as an American. He had the British, you know, accent, and, you know, he's the successful, you know, and they build him like he's this society person. So that one was like, that took me like probably like a minute to just absorb that. But like you, Stu, after I would say that was the last one. After that, don't forget, we awakened, you know, over time with each other and the support of each other and the different stuff that we were reading. But now I feel like you're guilty until proven innocent when it comes to anybody that's in government or, you know.
If you're famous.
What's that?
If you're famous and in the public eye, you got to prove yourself to us.
Exactly. Okay, sorry. So this is, you have the video that Simone sent you?
Yeah, Simone sent me this. Absolute classic. This is.
Now, some Western media are now trying to spin the narrative that Epstein might have been surprised, a Russian agent, and even insinuate that the Kremlin might be responsible for everything going on the island. What are your thoughts on this possible narrative?
Russia is a really weird way of spelling Israel. KGB is a very weird way of spelling Mossad. More often than not, if there is any government that knows about this and is using it to their advantage to keep a number of political leaders compromised, it's not Russia, but another country that wields significant amounts of leverage and influence over mine. And it's more so in the Middle East than in the Eurasian Peninsula.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant clip. Thanks for that, Simone. Hopefully, Elisa there is on the phone to JUANITO. So, let's see what happens. Let's just go through some of these comments. Yeah, George knows about the corruption and underhand behaviour in Parliament, always trying to expose it. Yes, look, George Galloway has done some excellent work, and the way he speaks to, I can't do a George Galloway impression, but he's very direct with what he says when he gets his point out. But yeah, he's just another David Icke. You know, he doesn't know about the plan. He's 3D. Maybe these people are there to wake the normies up that, you know, don't believe in that. You know, you mention Q to certain people and they immediately turn off. Correct. Where they shouldn't, but they do. So you try and wake them up, as David Icke is doing, or George Galloway maybe. It's down to us, we the people. You know, David Icke, standing straight, it is down to us, we the people. Right? No one's come to save you and all those sorts of things. It's also right, in a certain respect, because everyone's got to engage at some stage. What's that? George Galloway isn't running for office. That tells you he is okay. That is a very fair point. Let's have a look.
Okay, so that was not Juan. That was Jordan Clark, who's just been such an absolute doll, helping us connect with Juan. And so he was just saying, like, he has a show with him tonight at 6, and so he was pondering, when does this man sleep? So he just said, like, yeah, you know, whatever, he'll definitely get back to us. You know, we don't know, he doesn't know, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. You know, you never know, he might pop on. And if he doesn't, he's a gentleman, has a great reputation for, you know, getting back. So I'm sure we'll just reschedule. But clearly, he's crazed. So
I'm, you know, I'd like to see Juan on, but I know how busy he is and what he's doing. Well, I don't know, but I believe we think we know. He's he is a major part of this, and you know, whether he's got some sort of military general connection or not, like we've heard, you have to give these, you know, these people are doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I missed the little waffle about Simone's video. I was watching it partially, and I know it was about Epstein, but
didn't you watch it?
Yeah, I was watching it, but I had Jordan, so I couldn't really hear. You know what I mean? Because I was talking to him.
I'll play it again for you because it is a classic.
Okay, let me see.
Now, some Western media are now trying to spin the narrative that Epstein might have been surprised, a Russian agent and even insinuate that the Kremlin might be responsible for everything going on the island. What are your thoughts on this possible narrative?
Russia is a really weird way of spelling Israel. KGB is a very weird way of spelling Mossad. More often than not, if there is any government that knows about this and is using it to their advantage to keep a number of political leaders compromised, it's not Russia, but another country that wields significant amounts of leverage and influence over mine. And it's more so in the Middle East than in the Eurasian Peninsula.
Mm-hmm. Classic clip. Now, Jason there has just said, you need some crickets and sound effects.
We do. We got to get that. There you go. You got it.
I've got, look, I want my phone to start doing this again.
New cue.
And this.
Cue. Alert.
I've got loads of stuff in here.
Oh,
When we get a bit of sound, and when Elisa starts crying.
Yeah, Elisa, it doesn't take much to get Elisa crying.
When we have a clown, if we have any clowns come on.
Oh my God.
Do you know, I had a video the other day. I'll show you it, but I've got loads of all stuff like this. Look. There's loads there.
Oh, that's funny.
I've got loads of things on there.
Oh, hey guys, I'm back from retard school.
I've got all the classics on there.
But the people are retarded.
The number of mentally retarded is increasing.
I have to get my patch. I have to get my Patriots Across the Pond patch, and I have to get my Bring Retard. I think it was a Bring Retard back, or Bring that other one you have. I have to order them.
Make retard great again.
Yeah, because now I have my Velcro hat. Hey, this is a good. Let's just like, what are we thinking about our merch? I know we haven't really gone down that road yet. We've talked about it.
Right. Well, I know I made a couple of designs, didn't I, that I showed in one of our shows when we were sitting here waffling on. But if we are going to have a Patriots Across the Pond design, it cannot have that on it.
Right.
Right. Because that Punisher skull. Just talk for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, we can't. It's a copyrighted image. So even though we use it on our podcast, if we use a copyrighted image, a lot of you know, on something that you're actually making money on, that's a no-no. So we don't want to do that.
I had another mug made up.
Oh, wow.
Mine and Elisa's boat race on there, look. But it was done on eBay, but she wouldn't print it with a Punisher skull on there, so I had to take it out to get that printed because it is copyrighted.
Yeah.
So, I know that everyone is using it on their shows and all these sorts of things, but to actually put it on something and then resell it is a bit of a no-no. So, you know, if you've all seen our website, patriotsacrossthepond.com, there's loads of stuff on there, some great little teaser videos and things, but we are going to have a shop coming soon, but we've just got to design some stuff, really. It won't take me long, but I've just, you know, our website still isn't finished yet. We've got, what I did the other day, it was sort of finished, and where we got a 9 video section and then one big video above it, we're using some software that pulls a feed off Rumble that puts them all in order, and it brings the latest video or the upcoming video and puts it in that large video above the 9. But because I signed up for Rumble the other day, $6 a month, whatever it is, and to make my life easier, So I can now upload 3 upcoming lives at a time. It's completely fucked up the website.
Yeah.
Because the website can't pull the one it needs to. So we're going to have a rethink after tomorrow, when we've got 2 shows that I've already uploaded. I'm going to see what happens. I think it's going to reorder everything on the Rumble channel into the correct order, but it doesn't work like that on the website because the way Rumble allows us to connect and take these things, it doesn't use an API, I don't think. You have to go through an RSS feed and all these sorts of things. So
it doesn't keep, it messes up the order, basically. I think that's the gist of what you're trying to say. Just messes up the order.
Yeah, because what you can do is you can give it instructions. You have to tell this coding what to do in the website, what to do, and to look for the latest upcoming video, which was fine when there's only one. You have to put it in there as wording. But if you've got 3 upcoming videos, it doesn't know which one's which because you can't tell it a title. It can't gauge which one is the earliest first. So it just puts them all on there. And I don't want people going on their website to watch the latest video that's not going to be aired for 2 days or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days. Doesn't work like that. So I would rather cancel my subscription to Rumble and go back to loading 1 a day, which is a nuisance, but it's no stress.
Yeah, and it'll be accurate. You know, and we so I have no fucks to give. Do you see that in the chat?
No, I'm just catching up with the chat. Crickets and sound effects is where I've got to.
Yeah. But I think you know what? I think we'll start with t-shirts, definitely, right? Definitely t-shirts.
T-shirts and baseball caps, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll figure out, like, I think we could take some of the really fun, sarcastic, in your face little statements and maybe somehow I would love to combine our 2 flags. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't use the Punisher, you know, so use the flag imagery, but we'll come up with something cool. I think the first merch I bought, I mean, aside from Trump's, gear and stuff, I think was Patriots Street Fighter. I think that was the first one that I had in this movement. And he made some cool stuff in the beginning.
Yeah, they're talking about David Icke. So Kate, I know it's Wendy said that to Kate. You only need to watch the Terry Wogan BBC interview with him. Total setup to make conspiracies joke. That's exactly right. But he went on again years later, didn't he? About 10 years later on Wogan, and Wogan had to apologise to him because a lot of the stuff that David Icke was waking us up to was truthful. Whether some of it was meant to steer us down a certain direction, but it's his complete distrust of anything benevolent fighting for us. He's completely anti-Trump. He will not answer. I was in the chat 5 years ago when Nino had him on. Ask him about Q, ask him about Q, ask him about Q. And everyone was in the chat, get him to talk about Q. And David Icke, then I said, David, look, I've got to ask you, people want to ask about Q. And he started off saying something, and then he went into this weave he does, talking about perception, and we can only see on the 0.5 of the visible spectrum and all that, all the stuff I've heard before. And he completely swerved the question. Didn't answer it at all.
So I just think he's not supposed to talk about it.
Well, maybe he's not. Like I was saying earlier, maybe some of these people that are only 3D are trying to wake up those people in 3D. Because like I said, if you mention Q to some people, if you mention flat Earth to some people, they run an absolute mile the other direction, don't they?
Yeah.
You can't start certain people off with certain things. So, what Julie Green was saying the other day, I can't. Yeah, I listen to it. I take it on board. Do I believe it? No. J.D. Vance is a great white wolf and all these sorts of things, and Pam Bondi, they're all, whatever. Yeah. We just have to wait and see. And if they turn out to be wrong uns, we're not going to be surprised, are we, people? No. All us lot in here, oh, nice. If someone said to us lot in here, The Earth is flat, you know. Oh, nice. We wouldn't shit ourselves or anything, would we?
Right, right.
Not
Right.
at all. I'm just trying to catch up with this chat. If there's, oh, I'm pretty much there. Oh, did you indeed, Jason? I bought some silver coins from the Royal Mint. King Charles 11.3 on one side, and Archangel Michael slaying the dragon Satan on the other. 11.3, eh?
Yeah.
Verifies as the first marker. That's interesting. What's that mean?
Just reading that one.
Commander-in-Chief. King Charles is Commander-in-Chief of the UK military. He's going to save his bacon by ordering the military to arrest the deep state fuckers. Well, if he is, I believe Trump is in charge of the Commander-in-Chief of King Charles. Certainly. But I can see that. Trump could well be using old sausage fingers, as you do exactly what I say now, bitch.
Well, here's the thing. Do you remember, gosh, I don't know how long ago this went back. Maybe during his first term. Remember Trump used to talk about how his mom loved the royal family.
Yeah.
Loved the Queen. Remember that whole thing? He would say that.
Yeah,
right?
So does Trump, though, doesn't he?
What's that?
Yeah, but Trump does as well. The Queen Mother. Oh, the Queen, sorry.
No. I'm saying there's a respect factor that comes across publicly. So my point is, we know when he walked in front of the Queen and all that kind of stuff, like we know that is all, been capitulated and everything. However, out of respect, let's use that word, for the legacy of the royal family and what it means. Don't forget, so many people, there's a lot of people who don't feel that the royal family for many years should be, where they are. Forget about all this satanic stuff and everything. Just in general, they were resentful of the royal family. But there's so many people worldwide who, have a deference and a nostalgia and all these kind of positive feelings that are tied up. So what if he actually puts the, let's say the heroism to King Charles for the perspective of, legacy purposes, right? There's a good chance that, they're going to play that out that way, right? To keep that legacy going. But we know who's really pulling the strings. So that would make sense. I mean, don't forget, we're trying to rip the Band-Aid off on certain things, but they're also trying to make sure people stay calm, and it's a fine line. We were just talking about that yesterday. So that would make a lot of sense. Just like he's very talks of Israel.
I was muted there. No wonder you couldn't hear me.
No, so even with Israel, it's the same playbook. You're from where Trump stands. He lets other people do the bad news.
Yeah, don't forget as well, there's no honour, is there really, amongst criminals? And you've only got to get one to capitulate and grass on everyone else and say, right, whether they've got a little radioactive exploding devices inserted into one of their veins, which we're going to go, boop, unless you do exactly what we tell you, give us the goods on everyone, sausage fingers. And yeah. I was just going to say, when I had that clown music on, this video I made I put on Facebook and it got banned. Right, this is how pathetic Facebook is.
When was this?
A week or two ago.
No.
Yeah. This, as soon as I put it on, they removed it. Right? It's just, you tell me why this is banned.
Okay.
Ladies and verksamheter kan personalplan konsekvenser också att frågor beläggsgrafierna. Information power, I know that can that Patriots This place will change about the full applied position of your wisdom line and how your language and the decision contribute. All is all I can.
Clown World. Absolute Clown World. So I redid it in case it had music over it. Put some. You don't need to watch that again, but I redid it again, and then I took that one down as well.
But what do you, I mean, okay, what do I take away? That the people are stupider than a bird. Fucking dumb. You don't know how to fucking move things right.
Take that video down.
I don't know.
Crazy stuff, isn't it?
And what was the reason?
I don't know. It goes against their content, I think it said. Or policies.
Was there an insinuation of something sexual? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what could it be? No voice, no words.
No, it was a crow putting things, shapes in a toy, and a man trying to put his. I don't know what's wrong with certain people.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's obviously algorithms. I don't think anybody's actually, sitting there doing this with all the billions of posts that get put up. It's some kind of algorithm that took it down. Yeah,
we're gonna talk to exactly the UK military played YMCA to Trump when he was with Sausage Fingers. Now that's when we had Sheila Holmes on last time, and I don't know if we chatted with her afterwards once we'd finished in the back room again, but I did say to her I'd love her to come back on and talk about some other stuff, but I do want her to go into all this UK stuff because she did some stuff with Michael Jaco about all this going into the comms of when Trump was over here walking in front of Charlie Boy and all those other bits. But yeah, YMCA, hilarious.
Yeah. Yes, she's gonna come on again. In fact, we have to pick a day for that.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of chatter about the Rothschilds. And,
a lot.
Yeah, I watched something pretty interesting the other day. Let me just find it. If you've got anything to say.
Yeah, I've been noticing that too a lot with the Rothschilds.
Yeah, this one here. On Dave's News Treason channel, he had Mike King on. 1913, apologies to JP Morgan. And he goes into, I think it's about 1:14 it starts. He goes into all this Jekyll Island meeting and how it may not be what we were told. And apologies to JP Morgan, right? And you look at the creature from Jekyll Island and 1913. So if anyone wants anything to watch, go and find that. It's about 4 shows old, January the 28th, right? Number 79. From 1 hour, 14 minutes onwards. You can thank me later.
Wow. So without talking too much about this, are they basically saying that he was a good guy?
Something along those lines. As usual, I was listening with one ear and doing something with the other ear. So it is something I need to go back and watch again. I would have already downloaded it if you could download properly off Rumble these days, but it puts it into tar files. I know it still works, but
so
I shall put that.
It's very interesting because as we know,
I'm going to put that.
Yeah,
maybe that link to the Rumble chat and the YouTube chat.
I'm going to just spitball a little because you got me thinking. So as we know, what's his name?
And the
JP
Facebook
Morgan was the owner of the ship line, right? The Titanic. I forgot what the parent company was of that ship line. And he was booked on the Titanic, which we've now found out supposedly was the Olympia. But needless to say, it was billed as the Titanic because it was already a compromised ship, having been hit and having been repaired. And then we know he had his journey on that, and he pulled out. And you had Strauss and Isidore Strauss and oh my God, I'm going blank on the names. Astor and the other gentleman, who were deathly like patriots against anything having to do with this. So that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down, the whole J.P. Morgan, his background, his history. We know his father. Now, this is what we've seen, right? We don't know this for sure, right? We'd have to do a lot of research, but my understanding of J.P. Morgan is that his father was not a very nice man, and he was pretty abrupt with his son.
Well, you see, maybe it skips a generation, or maybe you are so vile to your son. Your son wants to be the complete opposite of you.
And I wonder if he wasn't as bad. That's a very well, it's kind of similar to who we've been taught are the bad guys and who are the good guys throughout history, and understanding those rabbit holes.
If Juan's not coming on as of yet, and he might not do at all, we can watch that if you like.
I would love to, because I am so fascinated. I've always been fascinated by those, what do you call them? The not pillars, the like him and Carnegie and all those guys. Like, it's so fascinating for what they talk about, and now we're finding out is not what we've all been taught.
Yeah, well, this might be. Well, we could watch it. It's about 40 minutes, maybe something like that. That'll fill a show up, and it's really interesting stuff. If you like, yeah, everyone keen on that. Yeah, then you don't have to go and find it yourselves. Then, yeah, okay. I'm going to mute myself, and we'll watch. Make sure I've got it on normal speed. I might speed it up a little bit. If anyone wants it speeded up, 1.5, 1.25, I shall do that.
Maybe
in the description below, and please take a minute, especially on the Rumble page. Go over there and give Mike a follow. And many of you always ask, where do I start? Somebody who's newly waking up. In my opinion, Mike's series on the rise and fall of the New World Order on Rumble, 20 to 30 minute videos, easy to digest. Yeah. Give that to people before you even try to get them in the queue. Yeah. Without further ado, Mike, did you know I'm looking at your presentation? This just happened to start on slide 17. Coincidence. I'm excited for this one. Here it is, Mike's new book.
There it is, Apologies to J.P. Morgan. And some people might be taken aback by that title or very intrigued by it, and I'm going to explain why. But this is very timely, especially with some of the economic stuff we're discussing and Trump keeps talking about, keeps going back to that income tax. Openly waging warfare and Federal Reserve, both of which we know were instituted in that fateful year of unlucky 1913. And this book is titled Apologies to J.P. Morgan, a new look at the creature of Jekyll Island in 1913. And what I mean by a new look is that, this book is twofold. One, it's a great story of intrigue and drama and treachery and murder that all went into creating 1913. Again, nothing just happened spontaneously. It was a whole buildup and a process and a long sequence of events in the years prior that led to this double abomination in 1913. And it's so cool when you understand this, because here we are more than 100 years later, 113 years later, and you've got a President Q operation openly waging war on both of these institutions, the IRS and the Federal Reserve. So for that reason, it's important. But I especially wanted to write it because the conventional story of this event that we've all come to understand and believe, that secret meeting on Jekyll Island, it is woefully incomplete and very inaccurate. And yet,
the truther, anon, conspiracy theorist right, and even the establishment left get it all wrong. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And when I started pulling on these loose threads, it really shocked me, and I felt bad because I've always bought this narrative, and for years I have cast this man as a villain. And this goes contrary to all of my research principles, because I never take anything at face value. But because it was like a unanimous consensus, left, right, center, that this was a bad guy and he engineered the Fed, I never stopped to question it. And I only stumbled across the truth by pulling on a loose thread, which I'll get into here. So let's see what I mean.
You got my attention.
Yeah.
I already bought one.
I don't know how well this book is going to be received, because we're dealing with a preconceived notion that's deeply embedded. And people want to say, oh, you're crazy, Mike. What do you mean JP Morgan's a good guy? The Fed, Jekyll Island. Well, hear me out. This makes sense. I got all the receipts. I don't think anybody could refute this. But let's have a look at what I mean. And again, just to give this historical context and demonstrate the contemporary relevance, Q Post 4962, November 11th, 2022. Who are the silent thieves? It's the Federal Reserve. How are they manipulating you? How are they stealing your wealth? Bubble, crash, steal, lie, repeat. What is inflation? Monetary manipulation, taxation without representation. And here's the kicker at the end, all caps or Qs here. Put an end to the endless, and there's that year, 1913. So that's, and now we're openly seeing it, the warfare against the IRS and the Fed by Trump. That's why I say this book is, it's not only a badly needed correction, but it's so timely.
So how many times, guys, have we seen the 11/11 comms over the last year?
Yeah,
which is when that was posted. JFK Sr. famously penned Executive Order 11-11-0 or 11110, which created silver notes. All relevant.
All right, now here's a quote that every truther, or many truthers, would have to consider as one of their first red pills. It was for me. When I read about this in a book called The Shadows of Power, I saw this quote, and that's going back to like 1990, 91. It's Frank Vanderlip, who was one of the attendees, one of the 6 men present at the meeting at the private hunting club of Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. JP Morgan was not at that meeting, but one of his associates was, and he was a member of this exclusive club, and it's believed that he arranged for the room for these men to meet. But one of the attendees was Frank Vanderlip of National City Bank. And he wrote years later, like 20 years later, quote, "There was an occasion near the close of 1910 when I was as secretive, indeed as furtive as any conspirator. I do not feel it is any exaggeration to speak of our secret expedition to Jekyll Island as the occasion of the actual conception of what eventually became the Federal Reserve System. We were told to leave our last names behind us. We were told further that we should avoid dining together on the night of our departure. We were instructed to come one at a time and as unobtrusively as possible to the railroad terminal on the New Jersey littoral of the Hudson River, where Senator Aldrich's private car would be in readiness, attached to the rear end of a train for the South. Once aboard the private car, we began to observe a taboo that had been fixed on last names. Discovery, we knew, simply must not happen, or else all of our time and effort would be wasted." Now, everybody's first impression on reading that, certainly mine, is, you know, you dirty, sneaky, gaslighting, conspiratorial sons of bitches. That's how you did it. And you don't admit it till 20 years later. Well, there's some context here that caused me to change my opinion of this statement and even of Frank Vanderlip himself. Well, let's continue. Now, present at this meeting, well, the organizer was Nelson Aldrich, Senator Nelson Aldrich of Rhode Island. He served in the Senate for 30 years, and his deal was banking. And he's the maternal grandfather of the 5 famous sons of Rockefeller, which I always made it a point to mention, and in a negative sense, as in, he's one of them. But, you know, now I look at that a bit differently, because first of all, you don't control who your daughter marries. But secondly, the Rockefellers, they didn't sign up for the whole New World Order cabal thing 2 years later. And you see this with some European royalty too. It was like, if you can't beat them, join them. So that doesn't come till many years later. At this point in time, the Rockefellers were not one world globalists. But he's not a Rockefeller. His daughter married him. But he organized this meeting, and he was one of the biggest men in the Senate. He was a Republican. He was pro-gold standard. He was anti-tax. He was an old-school McKinley Republican. I think most people just assume he's a Democrat because he orchestrated this meeting, which became Woodrow Wilson's Federal Reserve. But he was the organizer of this meeting. And then present, also in addition to Vanderlip, who I just quoted, Henry Davison was of J.P. Morgan and Company. And the other big man would be Paul Warburg. Now, how did Warburg get in the mix? Well, Warburg is of the famous German banking family. His brother Max Warburg was the most important banker in Germany. Nelson Aldrich wanted to pick his brain. Now, why? Well, in 1907, there was something called the Panic of 1907. Because when you have a fractional reserve banking system, which for better or for worse is what we've had for centuries, if people lose their minds on the basis of a bad loan or a rumor and they start going to the bank, well, not all your money's in the bank. So the whole system is predicated on people not losing their shit and all charging the bank. And then the bank's got to close its doors. So that happened in 1907. It happened in 1893. It happened in the 1870s. So these panics would happen, and they were terrifying. You imagine going to a bank and you can't get your money. They close the door. So that's the whole reason why it was determined after 1907, we've got to do something to prevent these panics. So that's why they were convening. And they didn't have this problem in Europe. So that's why Nelson Aldrich brought Warburg there. Now, in the big scheme of things, I'll get into this. Warburg, he's got his own agenda. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, shocker.
Okay. And it's just like I was talking about Emperor Francis giving titles of nobility to the Rothschilds. He meant well. He didn't know. Well, here you got Nelson Aldrich bringing Paul Warburg into the mix. He didn't know. But that's the villain on the right, not the other guys. So let's go to the next panel.
You think about it back then, it's not like these guys had the internet where they could go on there and do some opposition research.
Exactly.
They could find it, no clue.
Yeah. So I want to briefly go through these bullet points here. And, well, partially in the interest of time and partially not to give you all of the good stuff because I want you to get the book. But these are some main points to consider. I already mentioned the panic of 1907. And it was horrific, man. Stock market's crashing. Everybody's running a bank. Do you know who saved the day in 1907? It was J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan invites all the biggest men on Wall Street to his home, in his library, locks the door. He says, we're going to put a fund together and we're going to stop this panic. And we're going to explain to people, everybody just calm down. And that's what they did. He put up tons of his own money. And he strong-armed, much like Trump is just doing with this college thing for the kids.
Yeah, interesting, right?
And all the big men, he put the pressure on them to ante up. And they put that money available. They didn't give it away. They put it available to serve as a reserve for the banks. Calm the panic, to stop people from losing their minds and all going to the bank. Because with fractional reserve, your money's not physically in the bank. Only a proportion is. The rest of it is out on a commercial loan. Okay? And they didn't really have consumer lending back in the day. So these commercial loans were fueling the growth of the country. So there's an argument in favor of fractional reserve banking, even though intrinsically it seems a little weird because your money's not all there. But be that as it is, that was the system. And J.P. Morgan saved the day in 1907, and a lot of people saw him as a hero. And he had also, in 1895, played a similar role during the Panic of 1895. So Morgan was essentially acting as lender of last resort to squash these panics, and a lot of people saw him as a hero.
Wow.
The next point, the progressives, the early lefties, and they were just as despicable back then as they are today. They were blaming the robber barons for the Panic of 1907, the big, rich businessmen, particularly J.P. Morgan was a big target of the progressives. But what's interesting is they never went after Schiff and Warburg and some of the cabal financiers. It was always, they had a particular obsession with Morgan, Astor, Rockefeller, the Anglo elite bankers. The big Jewish cabal bankers, they kind of got off easy. Interesting.
I'm shocked, Mike, aren't you?
1908, this is after the panic, the National Monetary Commission set up, chaired by Senator Aldrich, who used to be referred to as the manager of the country. I mean, his whole thing was like banking and finance. He was very knowledgeable at this respect. But the purpose of this commission, and I got this all wrong, I always thought it was something nefarious. Now they have to address this problem. We can't keep crawling we can't rely on the cynic nature of J.P. Morgan every time we have one of these situations. We have to do something. 1909, I should mention, there was a big move by the progressives to institute an income tax, a personal income tax on income. Guess who killed it? Senator Aldrich. We always thought was a villain, right? The architect in Jekyll Island. And the sitting president, Taft. They stopped the income tax scheme. And the way he did that was the progressives were using, there was a deficit. And they were using that as an excuse. We need an income tax. We can't run deficits. And to thwart that, Aldrich said, okay, I'm concerned about the deficit too. I support a 2-year temporary corporate tax to pay off the deficit. Well, the progressives went nuts. He called them out on their bullshit. They didn't go for it. He knew they wouldn't go for it because they weren't interested in 2-year temporary corporate. They wanted a personal income tax. But that's how he was able to thwart it. And Taft threw his weight behind it. No pun intended. Taft was his biggest conspiracy. But he put his weight behind it.
On that one. Sorry, I'm a little slow today. Give me a second on that one.
So what's going on here? I thought Aldrich was a villain. I thought he was the architect of the Fed and the income tax. No, he killed the income tax in 1909, and the progressives hated him. November 1910 was that Jekyll Island meeting, and those 6 men were there. And Warburg was brought there by Aldrich because he thought he was such a genius. You know, what's your ideas? Now, here's why I've had to reassess the secretive nature of that meeting. Because what they came up with, the idea of a National Reserve Association, later became known as the Aldrich Plan, well, ultimately, it would have to be presented to the public anyway, and the Senate, and the House. And indeed it was. So think about it. Is it really like a really bad thing or conspiracy? When the thing that you're putting together, you can't do nothing with it until you present it to the world. And that's what happened in 1911 and 1912. They start presenting what would become known as the Aldrich Plan for a National Reserve Association. And it was truly a decentralized concept by which the banking industry itself, membership would have been voluntary. That's key for the banks. With the Fed, it's mandatory for national banks. But the idea was, instead of, we can't rely on JP Morgan to bail us out, but we have a reserve, a national reserve where all the banks ante up. So if somebody gets jammed up, you go to your local branch at a National Reserve Association, and they can get money there. But the important thing is to create something so the public would never worry again about their local bank running out of money. So that was the idea. It was mainly, how do we establish some sort of reserve within the banking system itself, private bankers, to prevent these panics? And as soon as this was presented, the progressives, the Democrats, the Democrat Party was almost all progressive, not entirely. And the Republican Party was predominantly old school McKinley Taft Republican, but not entirely, because you also had some progressives there too, like Teddy Roosevelt. But the progressives, they went nuts. They condemned Aldrich's plan. They said, no, this turns it over to the bankers. Well, it would have been run by the bankers because it's their reserve system. And they started viciously attacking it. And this is why they had to meet in secret originally, because he already was a target of the progressive press, Aldrich, you see? So what's going on here? Why I thought that the progressives are responsible for the income tax in the Federal Reserve System, and they are. Why are they hating on Aldrich? Because what came out of Jekyll Island was fundamentally different than what we ultimately got. Okay? April of 1912, the Titanic disaster kills 3 pro-Aldrich Plan men. Isidor Straus was in favor of the Aldrich Plan and keeping the government out of it, politics out of it. Benjamin Guggenheim, I couldn't find out anything about him in terms of his personal politics and what his feeling would be, but I discovered that his brother was a Colorado senator, a Republican, and he was considered an old school, old guard McKinley Republican. Okay, so yeah, he was a Jewish millionaire, and so was Strauss, but they were not cabal. So I would infer that Benjamin Guggenheim, big man in copper mining, given that his brother was so right-wing, so pro-gold, hard money, McKinleyite, I would put him in that category. And as far as Astor, the third big man who died on the Titanic, he gave money to McKinley. He was definitely an old school Republican. And the fourth man who was supposed to be on the Titanic, but he had other business, would have been JP Morgan. And because he missed the Titanic, there's this theory that he sank it. No, that's nonsense. They were aiming for Morgan, and they were aiming for Astor. If indeed it wasn't an accident, I happen to think something nefarious happened only because Q mentioned it in conjunction with the Fed. Why is Q dropping that? So that might have been an earlier version of 7 out of 10 plane crashes.
Yep, that's what I think.
So if indeed that's the case, think about it. You would have had 3 big men who all supported the Aldrich Plan. Strauss was even on a committee promoting it. He was a treasurer on a committee promoting the Aldrich idea, plus JP Morgan. So that's interesting. We talk about dig them up. How about dig up the Titanic?
Yeah.
Let's do some forensics there. Woodrow Wilson, candidate Woodrow Wilson, totally cabal-owned, as we know, condemns the Aldrich Plan. So again, this is another incongruity here. We know Woodrow Wilson is the political father of the Fed, signed it into law, but he's condemning the Aldrich plan, which came out of Jekyll Island. This doesn't make sense until you understand that this plan was badly bastardized. It's not the Aldrich plan. Then you had the rigged election of 1912. We all know about that. There was no way Wilson was going to unseat the incumbent Taft. So the cabal went out, recruited Teddy to run third party, split the Republican vote. Wilson gets it, right? 1912, one of them, arguably the most important election in American history, because this is what's on the line here.
Yeah.
If Taft is reelected, okay, he's not going to sign a Federal Reserve bill. He supported the Aldrich bill. He's not going to go along with income tax, corporate tax, not an income tax. And he's certainly not going to get us into World War I. That's how big that was. And it's interesting.
Very quickly, guys, if you didn't see our show last week, especially the last hour, I would encourage you to go back and watch Mike's presentation. That was last week, right? I'm pretty sure. Watch Mike's presentation on 1912 and the positioning that was done with the third party for that election, directly connected to this.
Really treacherous stuff. This was so important. And this is the drama and the intrigue that I get into surrounding 1913. So, and now in 1912, do you know one of the biggest issues? Well, the Aldrich plan was a big issue. Another big issue was campaign finance. In 1896, when McKinley ran, and we know McKinley's a good guy, one of Trump's favorites, right? J.P. Morgan gave a shitload of money to McKinley. So did Astor. 1900, again, J.P. Morgan. So J.P. Morgan is supporting these Republican gold standard candidates. That's a problem. Well, they made it a big issue in 1912. The money trust, the robber barons, they're controlling our elections. So they created this public pressure. So all of the candidates, including Taft, made it a point to say, oh, we're going to focus on small donors. So they kind of checkmated J.P. Morgan. Because if he drops a shitload of money in 1912, which is far more important than any other election, they would say, look, it's the evil robber barons money trust. They own Taft. So the big contributions were kind of, muted that year. It was a big issue in the campaign itself, the financing. Wilson wins, and he's inaugurated in March 1913. Inaugurations were in March back then. And in that same month, guess who dies suddenly? He gets sick while he's in Egypt, and they take him to Rome, and he dies in the hospital. Whole thing, tummy ache, the whole thing, just like these guys from Dig 'em Up. So I got to add him to the book. J.P. Morgan gets sick, tummy ache, can't swallow, he dies.
I think you got Dig 'em Up 2 coming, Mike.
Oh, yeah, I've discovered like 5 more since I wrote that.
I had before tonight. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah.
That right there completely changes my view.
Look at the date of his death.
Yeah.
And it's just one year after escaping death.
So they didn't get him on the Titanic, and they got him there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very unexpected and sudden illness. It was weird. He couldn't swallow and in and out of consciousness. All the indicators of poison. But nobody saw it coming back then. And then in 1913, Wilson's in there. The main restructuring of the Aldrich plan was, instead of having a board nationwide, decentralized, 45 board members, New York's influence limited, it was really a decentralized system that they came up with at Jekyll Island. Wilson's version was, no, we must have political oversight. 7-member board, New York centric, and he gets to appoint all 7 of the original board members, and they all happen to be Democrat progressives, and that's what shaped the formative years of the Fed.
So, Mike, real quick, were you able to dig out by any chance who actually authored that, or did it just kind of come? Is it known to have come out of Wilson's camp somewhere?
It came out of Wilson's camp, but Wilson's a nobody. It's Bernard Baruch, it's Jacob Schiff, it's Paul Warburg. And Paul Warburg, we now know historically, is the father of the Fed.
Right.
He's known as the father of the Fed. So this is Warburg. So they took Aldrich's idea, and instead of having a banking system where the banks kind of police themselves and keep a reserve to avoid these panics, he takes that element of it. So, when they say this was conceived at Jekyll Island, it's a half-truth. Yes, the reserve part of it, it's known as the discount window or lender of last resort, but then it was total political control. And then because it was political, ideological, progressive control, as the years and decades passed, they kept adding more and more powers to the Fed. And even the original Federal Reserve System itself, compared to the powers it has today, was relatively benign. But you had political people on the board. And yes, the Federal Reserve is not technically part of the government, but if the people who own the government control who gets appointed to the Fed and what powers the Fed has, in a sense, it is a very political body. And that was a fundamental difference. And because of that, look at that point, Aldrich and other Jekyll men condemned the Federal Reserve Act. I've got a whole 2 pages on the nasty shit that Senator Aldrich said about the Federal Reserve Act. And he's the guy that everybody blames for it. Get a load of this. Of the 6 members, the 6 quote unquote conspirators at Jekyll Island, 5 of them came out against the Federal Reserve Act.
Wow.
One of them was like so-so, Benjamin Strong. The other 4, and it all came out of, this is going to be politicized. So there was only one member, only one person at Jekyll Island who later supported the final version. Can you guess who?
Mike, you know what? You're kind of you're blowing my mind very quickly, because it actually does make, again, once you look at it from the other side, it kind of does make sense, right? The creature, like Jekyll Island, while not completely mainstream, is something that for years has been openly out there. There's documentaries on it, there's books on it. But when you think about it, you're like, well, wait a second, that would make sense. It was a smokescreen the whole time.
Yeah,
it does make sense. I just never thought about it.
Yeah, well, because they knew they had to get, the foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And Warburg was there, so that's ideal. So they came out and had this proposal. Then they pulled the rug by saying, it's not a bad idea, but the bankers are controlling it. You can't have JP Morgan, you can't have the robber barons, the money trust. No, we got to have the federal oversight, which means the people who owned Wilson owned the Fed. That was the trick. Aldrich never saw this coming, just like Emperor Francis never saw the Rothschilds coming. So there it is, October 13th. In anticipation of the coming Fed, we get the income tax. Personal income tax. Oh, it's just going to be on the rich. Don't worry about it. Yeah, how'd that work out? And then boom, boom, 2 months later, the Fed. And that's not by accident, because they go together. It's a companion piece, because they're envisioning massive perpetual debt in the future. The income tax essentially collateralizes the labor of the American worker to pay that debt. So boom, boom. And Senator Aldrich, and you can believe JP Morgan, if he was still alive, both opposed the income tax and the Federal Reserve.
Wow.
And when you read what the nasty shit that Senator Aldrich said about the final version, it just becomes ludicrous to continue calling the Fed the creature from Jekyll Island. It's not. In 1914, until the present day, the Fed rigs elections and gains more power. And by the way, Aldrich warned about that they could use this thing to play politics. And what happened in 1929, the stock market crash, that was deliberate. The choking off of the money supply, that was deliberate. And that's how they got rid of the Republicans once and for all. Bye-bye, Herbert Hoover. Hello, FDR. Hello, New World Order.
That's why I think, Mike, when Donald Trump posted on Monday at 12 p.m. that 1929 video of New York City, he's pointing to exactly what you just said. Yep. Yeah. Wow. My mind is melting. Like,
so all of these guys, Aldrich and Morgan, who've been, that's the amazing thing. Both the left and the far right hate these guys. You stop and think, wait a minute, that's incongruent. Now, you see this magazine here, Puck. This was a big magazine back in the day. It was founded by a German who came here after the failed revolutions of 1848 in Europe. The European monarchies were booting all these commies out. A lot of them ended up in America. And that's who founded Puck magazine, or the Sun founded Puck magazine. So this is a progressive magazine right here of the day. And look how they portray JP Morgan in 1907. He saved the country, but they portrayed as JP Morgan just captured all the banks. It's propaganda. And on the right, that's Senator Aldrich, represented as the head of a spider. Senate committee room, and he's plotting with the bankers, etc. I mean, this just reeks of Marxist propaganda.
Complete inversion of reality.
Yeah, totally. And I always say, if you want to take the lazy man's way out of understanding history and contemporary events, you don't want to do research, just look at all the cover pieces of Time magazine historically. If somebody gets a puff piece, you know he's a villain. If somebody is vilified on the cover, he's a good guy, generally speaking. Same thing with Puck. So these are leftist pre-commies going after Morgan and going after Aldrich. And they especially hated the Aldrich plan. And have a look at the next image on the next panel. And I've showed this on your show before, back when I was ignorant of this subject. And I tell you, I'm very cautious in my research. I don't get like fooled easily. But I just always assumed Aldrich and Morgan, bad guys. And this here is a cartoon that, again, it struck me early on when I was researching this like 30 years ago. The octopus, the Aldrich plan, the coming money trust. These were progressives who put this out. This is not what the National Reserve Association was about. It's what they had in mind with their version of a Federal Reserve System. So this is projection, total projection.
Oh my God.
And they were attacking the Aldrich, killing the Aldrich plan. Progressives were doing that, not conservative Republicans. On the right, there's another one, the executioner, the Aldrich plan. He's got an axe about to behead business. And it says, increase interest rates, bank loans contracted, the Aldrich bill grants to the National Reserve Association unlimited power to it. Isn't that what happened with the Fed? And it was not true. It was meant to be very decentralized. It was open to the public, and they wanted to have a discussion and get ideas. That's not what they were trying to do. JP Morgan was not trying to capture the banking industry. But they killed, with this kind of propaganda, the Aldrich plan didn't get anywhere in the Senate. And then when the campaign comes of 1912, now you got Woodrow Wilson saying, well, this is horrible, this Aldrich plan. We can't let the bankers take over America. Even though it's the Jewish bankers controlling him. Total projection.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is really an important book for this reason. This should change this whole trajectory of how we in our community have understood this issue.
It certainly has changed mine, and I haven't even gotten my copy yet.
October 16, 1911, 6 months before the sinking of the Titanic. That's a New York Times headline there. Isidor Straus urges new banking plan. Calls for speedy action. Citizen League, he represents, so he's actually a member of an organization called the Citizens League, which is promoting this Aldrich plan, this idea. But listen to what he says. He's quoted in the article. We believe in the basic principles of the National Reserve Association as proposed by the National Monetary Commission, Senator Aldrich. We are organized to keep this problem out of politics and see that the final plan shall be absolutely free from dangerous control by ambitious financial interests. So they were really focused on making this thing decentralized as we're putting it together. They just want to solve this problem of the bank runs. That was the main focus. And they wanted to keep this National Reserve Association out of politics. And that's Strauss saying that. Who dies on the Titanic. Isn't that interesting? Wow. And I would also mention that his son, he's the owner of Macy's, his son who took over after he died 20 years later, the cabal starts attacking Macy's because his son, Jesse Strauss, says, I'm not taking the German goods out of my store. I don't want any of that politics. So the Strausses were definitely not Jewish cabal, even though they were Jewish. They're not cabal. And he died suddenly too, by the way, Jesse Strauss. It's
wow. Well, here it is.
There it is. Apologies to JP Morgan. And indeed, and for me, that's a personal apology. I don't think I've ever written anything nice about this guy. And, you see people I've respected and whose shoulders I stood on, and I still respect them. They're great researchers, right? James Perloff, G. Edward Griffin, the author of The Creatures, Jekyll Island, Eustace Mullins. Listen, maybe this sounds a little arrogant to say, but it's the truth. They all got it wrong, which is okay. So did I. This is the great danger when you start repeating other people, even people you trust and respect. Their intellects and their character. Anybody can get it wrong. But I don't think anybody can poke holes in this. We did not get the creature from Jekyll Island. In fact, I would say this, in retrospect, if we did get the creature from Jekyll Island as it was first proposed, it might have been a very good thing.
Right.
Because they would not have had the political ability to add all this shit onto. The Fed really became a monster, like I said, not in 1913. It's a process. Began with World War I, because that gave it the opportunity to expand powers and start buying up war bonds, the so-called open market operations. FDR comes along, more power, more mandates, and on and then it got to a point where they're supposed to regulate the economy and achieve maximum employment and stuff like that. I mean, it's a total Marxism. It's part of Marx's manifesto, actually. It's one of the 10 planks. So they micromanage the economy, the booms, the busts, they rig elections. None of this would have been possible had the so-called creature from Jekyll Island been passed the way it was intended to. And again, can't emphasize this enough. Of the 6 men at Jekyll Island, 5 of them stated their opposition to the final Federal Reserve. It was only Warburg. And I've only given you, there's more, there's much more. This is a good book. You all need to get it.
Mike, you've done it again, maybe more so than at any other time. Guys, if you order on Amazon, it's on there right now. Link in the description below. We put it on the screen. At least where I am here in Florida, it gets delivered by Saturday. Perfect for me because I can read it on my day off. I don't know what to say, man, other than just from what I've already seen here, and I haven't gotten my hands on the book yet. certainly completely changes my idea of the whole thing. I'm excited about this one, man. I don't know what to say.
Dave, this was one of the things when I started to get the bits and pieces of some of this information I shared with you. My last 4 or 5 books, I've always said, I'm tired. This will be my last book. But then it's like, all right, I got to do this because everybody's got it so wrong. I felt like I had to get this one out because, usually I write about stuff that the general public gets wrong. I'm trying to help them. This is something we all get wrong, in our community, and it's got to be totally corrected.
Wow. Well, I do hope everyone will go out and get this. I think, Mike, when
Wow.
Interesting, eh?
Kudos to Mike for, for correcting that, because and a little ashamedly upon me and my fellow truthers that we didn't connect enough dots and look at more of the facts, right?
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. We were told you have more than you know, and we're all guilty of it. We all, the people who research less tend to parrot the certain things more. Oh, Rothschilds are bad, and this, and all sorts of things that just come out, right? But even us, the truthers, we still look at certain points like that. Federal Reserve started Jekyll Island. It's just one of those things that
it's not even that it started Jekyll Island. Like, that's the overarching. The more important thing is that we, as a group, like, so I say kudos to Mike King. We didn't say, well, what's the history of Aldrich's support? What was his, voting, so to speak, and his support? And, what about that of Morgan, and who were they support, right? Like, we just dropped the ball. And what's so obvious to me is that his death. So that should have raised a red flag for a lot of us, just to say, that's kind of interesting, that he died right then. But wow. Well, hopefully this sparks a lot more interest into those men, particularly JP Morgan and Aldrich, to really, go even deeper into their, a little bit more into their psyches and their lives and their works and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely order this. Hey, if Mike is listening, we want you to come on and talk about this book.
Yeah, or talk about anything, Mike.
Anything. Yeah.
If anyone is interested, let me just find it, because Mike King's website, Real News and History.com, he has written a lot of books. Let me just have a look down here. But basically, all these books, right, I don't know if his site works, books and PDFs, right? All these books. Crash Course, yeah, here we go. Crash Course, New World Order, The Bad War, He's got, Planet Rothschild, Hitler's Suicide Note, loads of stuff. He's got some, The Real Roosevelts, QAnon, The Storm. I've got a couple of his books over there. Yeah, this one is one of the best ones. The Secret Plan to Save Humanity, a summary of the Q operation and the rise of Commander Trump. He's got loads of stuff, but if you want to buy them I'm not promoting Mike or anything like that, but if you want to buy all these at $15, $20 and all that, but you can buy all of his books, right, in PDF form, 33 books for $29.
Yeah.
And I don't really think there's a better deal out there. You know, if people really want to start learning.
Well, you know, some people love books. I love books. You know, I love to have them. But how could you argue with that? $29, right?
Yeah.
To be able to read it. You could always buy the book if you want to have it, you know, but at least for now to actually get the knowledge. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Wow. Wow. That was really something. So anyway, we think we have our new challenge because.
Yeah. Well, I shall let Mike King go into that a bit more.
Yeah.
I've got his Q plan, but just getting over there actually. But
yeah,
I'm not much of a reader personally, but I've bought I've bought 20, 30 books, maybe 40 books, 50 books maybe over this last 5 years of interest to go into my reference library so I can archive offline just in case they burn all the books again or the internet goes down. You know, this is why Jason's printing all his pages off.
Yeah.
We were told archive offline. You can just see Jason turning up to Mar-a-Lago, can't you, when this is all said and done, in the U-Haul van with millions. There you go. Yeah.
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 So anyway,
that's it.
I think that's a wrap, and we'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. UK. Right? Got Matt Letizier coming on, and then we've got another Matt. We've got Matt Geiger coming on at 11 Eastern for UK. All right, well, we will reconnect with Juan, and thank you guys for all showing up today, as always.
Yeah, we love you. I did have a little trawl around to try and find a decent outro for Juan. I don't know if I want to play it now, but then
No, save it, because we will get him on. It's just a matter of when.
All right, I've got to remove that outro. Let's just put that one in for today. Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. We love you all, everyone. Thanks for coming in. Sorry Juan didn't show, but we know how busy he is, and I don't know what time zone he's in when he did message us back. And yeah, there's important things going on out there. So we will have him on. I'll guarantee you that. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So whoever's about, we'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock UK and 4 o'clock UK for Matt and Matt.
Yep, and 9 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, brilliant. Love you all. Take care.
Bye.
See you soon.
This is the difference between the power of our Creator and anything else, particularly evil. That you can go into a pitch black room full of evil, full of darkness, and light a little candle, and instantly that darkness flees. But you can't do the opposite. You can't go into a well-lit room full of truth and wisdom and righteousness and joy and health and harmony with the universal power. You can't take any amount of darkness and go into that well-lit room and have any effect whatsoever. That is the metaphor which I frequently think of when I think that I'm not empowered. It is the greatest lesson for me, and I think for everybody else, to know that we're on the winning side and that we win in the end.